And welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. It's time for another St. Louis FC post-match edition as St. Louis FC falls by the final score of 2-1 to FC Cincinnati in another fairly disappointing performance. Before we get into the game, I want to have a couple quick notes. I understand that it's a fan's right to complain about what they want, but there are so many people out there who have no clue what they're talking about when it comes to officiating. Now, I'm going to get into the official here in a second in and of itself, but people are complaining about out-of-bounds calls when the ball has to be completely over the line, and in the case that it isn't, the linesman is quite frankly in a better position to call it than some drunken yahoo who's sitting a couple rows back on the east side. So I get a little upset at hearing that. Also, I haven't seen the replay yet, so I don't know about that first FC Cincinnati goal, but the official was apparently saying that somebody over on the far side was keeping that player onside. Well, nobody on the fans is going to be looking over in that direction because you're following the ball, so nobody really knows for sure that it wasn't offside, or it was offside, whichever decision you want to argue. So to sit there and argue and yell and scream at the referee when there are kids around and using language that isn't necessarily necessary is a little bit too far gone, I think. Also, that said, I am completely disgusted with the officiating here recently. They haven't been terrible. They have not cost St. Louis FC any of the games. St. Louis FC has not played well, but the officiating is just kind of head-scratching at best. As an official myself, I oftentimes wondered, well, why don't we see any American referees at the World Cup or at some of these high-level tournaments, besides the fact that oftentimes we're watching an American game, so therefore you wouldn't have an American ref. Well, given some of the officiating that we've seen here recently, well, you would figure that you kind of work your way up through the ranks and you perhaps start in the USL and then graduate on as you become better. Well, if this is the best that we have to offer, then it's no wonder that none of our officials are going anywhere in terms of FIFA rankings and getting into FIFA tournaments, because they've just been terrible. I understand that there's a certain amount of physicality that you want to allow in the game, but when you're calling little taps on the back a foul, and yet people are allowed to hook and bear hug from behind and get up under somebody's armpit, that should not be allowed. There is no kind of physicality. If I was the official, I'd be calling it left and right, saying you can put your body up against them, you can kind of put your arms up next to them, but once you wrap around, once you practically put them in half Nelson or go over for the wrestling type move, then that's a foul. I don't care if it's in the box, I don't care where it is. There is nothing in a defensive move that should be allowed in that kind of manner, because you're gaining nothing but impeding the player from doing anything. I apologize for stuttering a little bit, but I'm just irritated by that, to say the least. On to the game itself. Once again, St. Louis FC, just poor performance overall. They finally turned it on a little bit once they were down 2-0, and then they kind of rallied back and scored that goal and put a little bit of effort into it. But you shouldn't have to wait until you're down 2-0 to finally show a little bit of life. Come out and give it your all right from the beginning. And to me, that goes to the coaching staff. And I've done my best this season not to pick on the coaching staff, because I do feel that it's a little bit of a picking one side over the other, because when it comes to the St. Louis Blues, I don't necessarily blame the coaching staff as much as other people, so therefore is it really fair to blame the St. Louis FC coaching staff when it's kind of the same situation? But in my opinion, one does not necessarily always equate to the other, and I'm just really kind of tired of the way that the team comes out, where they come out, it's like, okay, well, let's settle into the game. No, do what these other teams are doing. Attack the goal. come out and try to score a goal in the first 5 minutes, because right now it doesn't look like St. Louis FC is trying to do that. And quite frankly, whatever strategy they're trying to employ isn't working right now either, because they can't seem to not be scored upon in the first 10 minutes either. So if you're coming out trying to defend, you're failing at that. If you're coming out trying to score, you're clearly failing at that, because St. Louis FC, for whatever reason, is really struggling to score from the run of play. It seems like a good chunk of their goals are coming off of set pieces like corners and free kicks. They managed to score from a run of play here in this game. But again, it took late into the game, down 2 goals, before you really kind of put something together. I just don't understand what's going on with the players right now, because they're just in an odd frame of mind. The passing was not as bad technically in this game, but again, there's just too much, and it goes back to something that happened with the Blues during their season. There's too much of like, okay, I'm going to make a pass, you deal with it. They're just going up the middle, even if they use the wings. They're taking too much time, and it's like, okay, here I made the pass to get rid of the ball, but now all of a sudden there's 3-4 guys around the person that has the ball now. Oh, well, you take care of it because it's not my problem anymore. And then they just pass it back to them. Oh, well, it's your problem now again. There's too much of that. They need to have more purpose. They need to know what they're doing. They need to spread the field a little more. They've tried to go wide here against FC Cincinnati, much better than they did in the midweek. But still, it's just taking too long to get places. When they go up the middle, it's too deliberate. They try to go central too much. When they try the wings, it's not happening quick enough. And something's got to change, because right now it's really disappointing to watch this team. They've gone from a playoff spot to ultimately kind of a disappointing team that's kind of doing a stone fall down the rankings. They're still within a shot of the playoff spot. I don't think the rest of the Western Conference has been as good as we expected it to be. So St. Louis FC is by no means out of things, and take nothing away from FC Cincinnati. They're high up in the rankings. They have 11 wins now, only 3 losses, I believe 3 draws. St. Louis is now 6-8-5. They've got to find a way to do something. They play better on the road than they do at home. That's very similar to what happened last season. I just don't understand what's going on. The fan support is not quite what it was last season. We're not having as many sellouts as we did last season, at least it feels like. But the games where the attendance is a little bit down are still not quite as down as it was last year. So you're getting more of a consistent flow of fan base, but eventually you got to start putting results together, because St. Louis is a fickle town. We all love it, but you know that it's true. So you don't start keeping the wins, people aren't going to show up. People want to see entertaining soccer. They want to see wins. Right now, they're really not getting a whole lot of both. St. Louis FC has got to figure out something to get it turned around, because it's really disappointing from an offensive end. There's a lot of miscues on the backside, and it was another disappointing performance overall. And this time we don't even get a point out of it either. The second goal was a little bit iffy. I couldn't see a clear shot on the replay. The initial save was made by Thompson, and then he was not able to corral the rebound. But again, the Mr. Know-It-All behind me was like, oh, well, that's on the goalkeeper. Well, no, you don't know what happened any more than I do, and I'm sick of people blaming everything on the goalkeepers. Maybe the defender could have tracked down the rebound as well. We don't necessarily know everything that happened. It's not always on the goalkeeper. Quit blaming it, because it's the easy thing to do. But in the end, the officiating did not cost us the game, but the referees have been very bad. St. Louis FC has not produced enough here lately, and you just get some irritating people in and around the soccer park, but they've been given a lot of reason to be as well. So it's just kind of an overall getting to be a bad situation right now. They've got to get a win here sooner or later, whether it's on the road just for the team's sake or whether it's at home to kind of get that fan base back energized, because the fans are trying to do everything they can, but they're just not being rewarded enough and for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on. And hopefully the coaching staff can figure it out, because right now they don't seem to be necessarily part of the solution, although I will credit them because St. Louis FC came out in that second half a little bit harder, a little bit more crisp, a little bit more on the front foot. But you need to start seeing that right from the get-go. That's the recap for St. Louis FC versus FC Cincinnati. St. Louis falls by the final score of 2-1. Until the next time, I'll see you then.